is EMDR therapy? So EMDR therapy is an abbreviated term that is talking about eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So what is that? So Francine Shapiro in 1987 was walking in the park, and she had just received distressing news. And she noticed that her eyes were following a branch, and it was swinging from the right side to the left side. And her eyes, she noticed that her eye movements, swinging from the right to the left, were offering her a sense of relief. And she thought, hey, I wonder if there's any scientific data on eye movements that can offer relief to some of my clients with anxiety, or even help them to dissipate the anxiety that they struggle with. So she took this back to her little lab and did lots of research. And since that year, there has been lots and lots of research about what this thing EMDR therapy is. Now, what it's proven is that and there are so many therapists that use it. So what's this technique really about? So originally, EMDR in its truest form is about, the therapist asks you to hold a distressing image in your mind. So there's an image of something, and then the worst part of the image is requested. So say you were on a bike and somebody crashed into you. So what was the worst part? The worst part might be I'm noticing I'm about to be hit, right? Another bike driver is coming towards me, and that for me was the worst moment. For somebody else, that could be like the moment when I noticed I was on the floor, or the moment I noticed that my leg was bleeding. So you bring up the worst part of the image, the belief that you have about yourself: I'm in danger, or I'm powerless, or I'm not safe, or I'm going to die, right? The body sensation, where do you notice it in your body? Is it a clenching in your throat? Is it a tight feeling in your belly? Is it just this like hunched overness, right? So you identify the part in the body, and then the emotions that go with it. Is it fear? Is it worry? Is it panic? And then the therapist tells you to follow her fingers. So it's kind of like it moves from the right to the left, right? And you follow the fingers from the right to the left. These days, we sometimes also use something called tappers, which you can hold these buzzers in your hands, and it just buzzes in the right hand and the left hand. Or your therapist might tap on your knees, or invite you to tap on your knees, or tap your hands. So what's happening is you're bringing up something upsetting, and you're activating the right side of your brain and the left side of your brain. So what's that about? So research shows that when you kind of trigger the right side of the brain activation and the left side of the brain activation, it triggers the same interaction in the brain that we have when we experience REM sleep. So you go through an experience or many experiences during the day, and what happens when we sleep, especially REM sleep, is that all of the data, all the files that are here, slowly get filed into long-term memory, right? They don't stay here in working memory, they get filed away. Oh, I had this interaction. Oh, this happened. Oh, I had this party. Oh, that was an argument. But it kind of gets filed, right? It's like a file. It organizes the file, so you're not left with too much data. So you have a fresh new plate for the next day to have interactions and to be present. So EMDR helps because when you go through something that's stressful or distressing, you're kind of have piles and piles of paper, or piles of piles, or lots of emotional energy or frustration or anxiety, and it hasn't been digested. It kind of got frozen in your body. So in real time in therapy, what this looks like, it looks like two different things. So sometimes somebody will come in for something that's called single incident trauma, right? So an example, somebody was in a bike crash and they're just feeling very hypervigilant, very jumpy, very irritated, very fearful, right? Doesn't want to go biking again. So that might be a single incident trauma. It could also happen with, a car crash or an assault, an attack, single incident. So we really, we work the first few sessions on strengthening your resources, which are the ways that you can learn to naturally calm yourself down, practice coping skills, make sure that your body and mind are strong, and then we process the experience so that you're left without that distress when you deal with that situation again. The other kinds of processing that I more often see is it's not single incident trauma. It's usually related to a bit more complex issues. So it's less about a specific incident, but it's more about the beliefs. What does that mean? Somebody might come in with anxiety or irritability or not feeling so safe in their relationships. And what's really going on is there might have been this ongoing lack of feeling of safety as they were growing up or in the current relationship, or, somebody lost their job. So we might target their job, but really, there's been lack of safety in a lot of parts of their life. And so what we go on and what we start processing is the beliefs that are stuck on the person that really are sapping their joy, that are giving them this ongoing feeling of danger and that don't allow them to really show up in the way they want to. So it will look a little different than just coming up with one target. We'll target more like beliefs of self, and then we go through that protocol of like an image that represents that, the worst part or the most uncomfortable piece, the body sensation, and the emotions that come up. And we process through it. And we work as well with the parts, because sometimes you might have a protective part or an angry part or a critical part, right? And so we blend different therapy modalities. But I just wanted to explain EMDR because many people say, like, I heard EMDR is this magic therapy. It is pretty magical in the way that it helps your brain become less reactive and less triggering, and that you could show up to life better. But I also want you to know that it takes time. And especially when it's about beliefs, core beliefs about yourself and the way that you've shown up and the way that you've learned to be in this world, we chip away at like one layer at a time, right? It isn't just that you had that bike accident. It isn't just that you had that one-time attack, or if you have gone through some kind of abuse or trauma, that's okay. We might first help you learn safety and help your body be less triggerable, and then over time we might do some processing of a trauma or stressful situations or chaos that you've lived with, or we might just continue strengthening the beliefs and helping you feel safer in the world. So it really depends on the client and what's right for them. I do want to say with EMDR that clients with complex trauma or with dissociative symptoms or dissociative disorder, then we work much slower, because if parts of self are not present in the room, then they won't be experiencing the relief that EMDR therapy has to offer, because there might be parts that are not receiving the treatment. But EMDR does offer anxiety relief, does offer a sense of strengthening the positive parts of the brain, firing up the positive neural networks, the neurons about safety and consistency and security internally. And if you have any questions about EMDR, I would be happy to answer.